What's going on, people? It's your man, the YB, back once again. Big shout out to my doggy, Clement, for coming through and boosting up your man, the YB's bill schedule situation. He said, come on, people, each pattern the YB with £5 so that he can pay his shekel rent this month. Because you best believe, people, regardless of gambling losses, Mr. Shekel Rent, he gonna get his. Do you understand that, people? The shekels, they get paid. they ain't trying to hear about, oh, I'm light this month. Yeah, oh, I was sick this month. Mr. Shekel must get paid. Must do. No doubt. They got a water fund. Anyway, on to today's topic. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I had no idea about this fight. Joyce versus Chisora. It was nowhere, and then all of a sudden I saw it on YouTube, the press conference. But I'm going to be honest with you, this is the fight that makes sense. A few weeks ago when Joyce fought, who was it? Muhammad Ali. What's his name? I don't know his name. Yeah? Ali something. Gash Ali. He's Gash. 100%. Gash Ali. Joyce fought Gash Ali. The fight was whack. At that point, Dillian Whyte fought Christian Hammer. That fight was whack. And I kind of thought that them two should get it on. But really, to be fair though, Joyce has been interim champion before. Dillian Whyte ain't done nothing. Dillian Whyte's been mandatory, but who did Dillian Whyte ever beat? Dillian Whyte never beat... Oh, tell I. He did beat Joe Parker, but he didn't do nothing with Joe Parker. He went life and death. I've scratched my head on the gloves, the Velcro gloves. It's annoying. It's well hurting. Anyway... I thought that fight made sense. Joyce versus... Looking how shot Dillian Whyte looked and how shot Joyce looked, I thought that fight made sense. But this fight is really as good, if I'm honest. And this sets up nicely for what comes next. In my opinion, we know the winner of Joyce and Hrgovic will fight AJ. Because for me right now, Dillian Whyte, he's out of that AJ talk now. AJ's back on for now. Now, if AJ lost to the winner of Dubois and Hrgovic, which isn't my base case, then it's kind of like maybe Fury can beg friend a Fury fight if Fury loses twice to use it kind of thing. Or really, the Dillian Whyte situation is the next best one. But my base case is AJ smokes the winner of Hrgovic and Dubois, which leaves the winner of this fight, the winner of Joyce and Chisora, I believe, should fight either the loser of Dubois and Hrgovic or Dillian Whyte. That's what makes sense here. Yeah? Nothing else really makes sense. But this is the middle fight we needed for Joyce on his comeback. That Gash Ali fight might as well not have happened, right? Joyce needs to go in there and deal with Chisora in devastating fashion. Is it likely? 2 years ago, I'd have told you it would be a mauling. But right now, it's a 60-40 fight favoured towards Joyce. Because Derek Chisora, who did we see him fight? Takam. Yeah? I believe Derek Chisora prepared for Takam with the right hand. He set that punch up, or he was waiting for that punch. He was posted for that punch against Takam. He put his head down, winged the right hand, and Takam was asleep. Now, Joe's obviously bigger. He's slower than Takam. But Joyce is open for the overhand right. And Del Boy, he can throw that. And Del Boy ain't one of them dudes like Gash Ali, who are going to be scared of his shadow and scared to commit to something. And even Gash Ali was clipping Joe, right? And I don't believe Gash Ali really has heavyweight power like that. Chisora does. Chisora does have legitimate heavyweight power. That's what we know for a fact. And that's all really you need at this point. Zhang has taken the best of Joyce. Joe's like 40-year-old himself. It's not like he's a young fighter. Joe's already in the OAP section. And then Zhang took the best of what was left. Whatever was left, Zhang had. And we saw that in the Gash Ali fight. Joe's slower than ever. His chin can only be more suspect than ever. He's only another year older. Listen, Chisora's half washed as well, but again, I'd have to say at this point, it's a 60-40 fight. A great fight though. Yeah? Really, Whyte, Chisora and Joyce, they're all in the mix now together. That makes sense. We know Dillian Whyte and Chisora. Even in Dillian Whyte's prime, Dillian Whyte had 3 hard fights, however many fights it was, hard fights with Chisora. He was arguably losing that last one until the referee started taking points, and then Chisora started trying to rush his work and got caught. But it was nip and tuck. If not, Chisora was winning, in my opinion. So, these guys are all equally matched. Well, you'd like to think Joyce is obviously Olympic, silver medalist. He's a bit more primo, but that Cash Ali fight, man, it just wasn't a good look. It's almost like overnight, Joyce, well, no, it's not overnight, but it's almost like Zhang has taken that durability from Joe. He's taken the little bit of speed he had, which wasn't much, it's gone. He was like even slower, right? His feet was even slower. Even his jab, Joe's renowned for busting people down with a jab. He didn't bust down Cash Ali with a jab. Cash Ali ain't even look like he had a fight. Yeah? And Cash Ali was catching him. So this fight can go either way. And I'll tell you what, let's have a look at the odds now. Joyce versus Chisora. But there's no way I'm gambling on this, that's for sure. Odds checker. There's not in a month of Sundays am I gambling on this event. Because, oh wow, Joyce is a huge favourite. No, I'm not going to bet on Chisora because, yeah, but I'm telling you now, this reminds me of Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. Yeah? Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia, you put a tenner on, you got like £11.50 back for Devin Haney to win. And I told you, man, don't do that. There's absolutely no value in that. It can only go wrong. And I'm telling you that now with this bet here. You put a tenner on Joyce and you get 13 quid back. So you make 3 quid. Never. This fight is 60-40, which should mean, really, to make money off this, I'd want to see you put a tenner on Joyce and you get like what? 17.50 back, 18 quid back. That's the kind of fight this is. Yeah, the value here for me is in Chisora, because Chisora, whatever you say about him, he can come forward with his hands up. We know Joyce goes forward, but Chisora can come forward with his hands up. Look at Chisora versus Usyk. Chisora can put his chin down, get his hands up, come forward, tap with a jab, look at the floor and bowl that right hand over. Joe get hit with that. Gash Ali was hitting him with it. Everyone hit him with it. Zhang popped him right in his mouth with it, right? So, hammer. Everyone's hit Joe with it. And I think Chisora's kind of weathered enough that he knows now what needs to be done. He knows, okay, I'll take a few shots here to get to look at the floor and bowl my right hand over. And I can see that happening. And I can see Joe unfortunately dropping like a sack of shit. That's what I can see. That's where the outside odds are here. Let's look at Chisora KO. Okay, it's not there, but I guess if you put a tenner on Chisora KO, yeah, you probably get 60 quid back. That's the value, I'd say, in this situation. People, Joyce didn't even stop Gash Ali properly, right? That was a bear. Gash Ali got tired. That's something Chisora doesn't do, right? Chisora's not a guy who like Daniel Dubois. Gash Ali, Daniel Dubois, they're from the same crop. They get a bit tired and they don't want to fight no more. Whatever you say about Chisora, he might get tired, but he don't just fall off and jump on the floor. You have to do something with Chisora. Even when we've seen Chisora look bad against Joe Parker, he didn't get knocked out twice, right? So he's got to condition him. And I believe, Joe may take them overhand rights in the first few rounds, but eventually he's going to get caught. And the value here is Chisora stoppage, I'd say. Or better yet, people, listen, you can put a tenner on Chisora and get 36 quid back. Bottom line, that's valuable. I ain't putting tenner on Joyce though. I'm just not. Can Joe move? Can he find his legs again and start moving in boxing? That would be his best bet. But then again, even Joe moving in boxing, like he was against Dubois, yeah, I'd like to think that's his best bet. Keep it light on the feet, get that jab going. Joyce must have his jab going. That must be his focus. Must be. And this really, for me, is one of the few times I'd advise Joyce to politic his way through this fight. If he goes in there trying to be the juggernaut, it's a 50-50 fight. And I'm not even sure Joyce hits hard enough, to be honest. Joyce has never been a big, prolific one-puncher. Yeah, I've never seen him really, apart from Joe Parker. But even then, it took him, he had to break Parker down. But we've seen Chisora can catch her. He loves to throw hooks as well. So the angles are going to be a nightmare for Joe. And Zhang showed that. Zhang's quicker than Chisora and gotten bigger and whatnot, but like shots coming straight over the top, shots coming from the left, shot coming from up, it's going to be hard for him. And if his legs are shot, like they look like it was shot against Gash Ali, it's going to be hard. I'm surprised the odds are here, if I'm honest. But what do I know? Joe Joyce probably go in and knock him out in a round. But that can never be the base case. You didn't even knock Gash Ali out. Gash Ali ready to go, right? He ready to go. He couldn't wait to get out of there. He tried to chew someone's leg. He tried and chew on David Price's ear or whatever it was. So, yeah. Let's have a look before I go actually on. I want to see, I think Chisora's lost a few fights recently. Derek Chisora, box rack. I just want to get a gauge here. Okay, he got stopped by Tyson Fury. But again, in that fight, he wasn't knocked out. It was a kind of a stoppage. It was a sympathy stoppage. Yeah? He beat Pulev. Gerald Washington, he lost on points. Quite convincingly though. I haven't watched that fight, but he lost apparently quite convincingly on points, which ain't a good look. So is Chisora finished? When was that? That was 9 months ago now. But I think this kind of fight, where it's... What's the word? This kind of fight for Chisora. Chisora turns up... Chisora reminds me, of one of them football donnies from the 1960s or the 1980s or the 1990s. The football factory cats. He turned up for the derby matches, right? These interim fights with bums, he kind of fights to their level. When he's going in there with a Dillian Whyte, for example, or even a David A, that fight initially, when Chisora turns up to the derbies, he turns up to win. That's when he comes alive. The little fights, he kind of falls off. And that's been quite evident throughout Chisora's career. Even the Usyk fight, he turned up for that. Look how close these cards were, people. 113, 115. 113, 115. 112, 117. Close. David Price, he knocked out. That was arguably a derby. Dillian Whyte, 2 good fights. Takam, big derby at the time. Knocked his ass out. Even Caballel, look, the new dude who's on the scene now, Caballel. Chisora had lost an MD. He lost 114, 115, 113, 115, and 114, 114. Close ass fight. And that's this dude who at the time was undefeated, 16-0, right? So, when it comes to turning up, I believe for this fight, Chisora's already said this is fixing to be my last fight, so I think he's going to be on it. And it'll be intriguing to see how it plays out. I know I've said I want Joe to kind of... Well, Joe's best chance of winning is if he has legs still. But as a fight fan, I'd like Joe to prove a point. I'd like Joe to say, selfishly for myself, I'd like Joe to go in here and have a fight. I think that's his niche now. I hate to say it, but 40 years old, after Zhang, after Gash Ali, I think Joe Joyce's niche now is to be the new Chisora. Yeah? I'm going to put on entertaining fights for the fans. That needs to be Joe Joyce's niche. When he was on the up against Dubois and obviously Parker, his kind of box and punch, his box and brawl, not box and brawl, but he had a little, he was making a little niche for himself. And then the Zhang fight is kind of like buff. Joe Joyce's niche was, I'll jab your head off and just outwork you and outgrind you. But then Zhang happened. And then Gash Ali happened. And it's looking like he ain't outworking nothing in that sense. So where Joe Joyce's new edge is to just be coming forward. Try and remake the Juggernaut. Put your chin down and just wade forward, wade in. Especially for this fight. This is a derby fight. The first time Joe Joyce is fighting at the O2. This fight deserves a sellout. But don't let it be a stinker, because the people stop. The Gash Ali fight, Joe Joyce versus Gash Ali, was the definition of a stinker. That I didn't even watch it, but it stank. Oh, watch this one though. This one's worth watching. 2 months' time. But Joe, like that Saudi cat Turkey, yeah, he looking to put people on. Frank Warren, he looking to put people on. What you don't want to do, Joe, is go in there and win this fight. I know Frank Warren said, the winner of this fight will go forward. And maybe it will. Maybe they will regardless, kind of thing. Maybe even if you go in there and stink the place out like Cash Ali and just win on points, maybe you will get put on still. But if you go in there and have a fight, yeah, and then win, people want to watch that. I get the feeling that Turkey's almost making like a UFC model. Look at Dubois. Yeah? Dubois lost to Usyk and then was given another shot against Jarrell Miller and then proved himself, kind of thing. There's been other examples. Jarrell Miller himself. Jarrell Miller's lost to Dubois and he's getting put back on. As long as you fight hard, Turkey interested. If you go in there flapping around looking gash against Gash Ali, it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Yeah? Because you've fallen off and it's not even interesting. So go in there, have a good go. I mean, you've got the edge over Chisora in theory. You're both a similar age, but there's no doubt. Yes, Joyce has been comatose by Zhang. Yes, Joyce has had his cherry popped by Zhang, but everyone's got to agree Chisora's more war-torn. They may be the same age, but Chisora's got more mileage on the clock, I'd argue. Chisora's been doing this damn near 20 years, professionally. Right? When was the first time Chisora got his head punched in? Have a look at it. He fought Fury there. Okay. David Hay. So for the last 12 years, Chisora has been getting his head punched in nicely. Right? So that's a lot of wear and tear. Joyce has only really been getting his head punched fully in for the last year or two. So you've got to take that freshness and run with it. You've got to back yourself. Because no one else is going to back it, in my opinion. Well, some punters will, but from what we've seen against Gash Ali, it's hard to back. It wasn't inspiring. It wasn't even like he was busting him with a jab, yeah? And people say things like, well, IB Gash didn't come to fight, which is true. It's hard sometimes when someone doesn't come to fight and they put their guard up. But, people, when Triple G went in there, yeah, and Triple G ain't even a heavyweight, but when Triple G used to fight people who just want to run, they were his favourite, right? Beterbiev too. Beterbiev even more so. People, when you fight properly, you can't say, oh, well, Gash Ali didn't come to fight. People, who have you ever heard say to Beterbiev, oh, he didn't come to fight, right? If you want to run backwards, good for me. I'm going to come wading in and just hit you with everything. And at the heavyweight level, there's even less of an excuse. Because even if you put your earmuffs on you as a heavyweight, the shots, you still take them shots. So if you're in there working someone as a heavyweight, there's no excuse really for it to be dragging on, whether they want to fight or not. It's very hard to just survive at heavyweight. Look at AJ early in his career with all them bums. You can't just go in there and put your guard up. The shots are too heavy-handed. You get stopped or beat up. And Joyce weren't even doing that. He weren't even putting it on him like Beterbiev / Triple G. A slow Beterbiev and a slow Triple G, right? But this is your time now, Joe. So I want Joe to win. This is your time now to be back on, kind of thing. And how you get back on is not having a stinker and nicking the fight on points with Del Boy. That's what you don't do. You go in that ring and you meet him in the centre and you punch him up, or you die trying. That's my advice, right? Anyway, let me know your thoughts. You have to. I mean, if you can't back yourself against a 40-year-old Chisora, well, then what are you really doing here, right? If you don't believe you can go toe-to-toe with Chisora, then it's kind of like, oh, I get it. You don't necessarily believe you can go toe-to-toe with Dubois. I get that. So you kind of boxed him and punched him up in the long run. But Chisora, if you can't out-juggernaut Chisora, then that whole talk about juggernaut was a myth, right? Yeah, Zhang caught you, but Zhang's a big old dude. In fact, Zhang's caught everyone. Zhang put Parker down 2-3 times. Zhang put Hrgovic down. Zhang knocked your ass out. So Zhang, he been knocking asses out. Yeah, Zhang the cherry popper. That's just what Zhang do. He ain't got not a lick of gas tank, but he gonna pop that cherry. He gonna touch that cherry. If you got an untouched cherry, Zhang, he gonna bang it. He told you that already. I will bang everything. Yeah, the big bang. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, people. Smash the like button, subscribe. Lick off the bell, 100%. No doubt about it. Stop it.